Yeah, and hey, you found a job, you're applying, and of course, sometimes you get rejections, but of course,
It's bad.
sometimes you get like some interesting reaction on
Yeah.
email and phone. So then you really start the application process. And actually, let us maybe focus on the hired position that you're doing now. Yeah, how was the recruitment process? Could you like briefly touch upon it?
Yes, I'm going to do that for the hired position that I'm currently
Yeah.
doing now. But I also want to just share a little bit of
Oh, sure.
my story with
Yeah.
the whole job search process. Yeah, like you mentioned, you get rejections. But sometimes when I get that, or most of the times when I get those rejections, I don't see them as rejections. I see them as redirection.
Oh.
Because that way it saves you also the energy and the stress of not being down or being depressed or being sad that you're not getting the input you're making. It's part of the process. And trust me, I wasn't the only one experiencing those, in quote, rejections at that point, because there were also people that are not EU nationals, foreigners like me, immigrants like me, that also came in and they're experiencing the same thing. So I wasn't the only one in the picture. And I try to save myself the energy of not being sad by telling myself, and not just telling myself, but also knowing it deep down inside of me that I'm not rejected, I'm being redirected. So that way I can keep on pushing. Sometimes you get good emails that say, oh, you have a good CV, you have everything we need, but we're sorry we cannot move on with your application. And you start asking yourself, but wait a minute, why wasn't I successful? What did I miss? There's so many things you don't understand in the recruitment process, and there's so many things that may not play out in your favor because you're a foreigner at that point. But then I see it and I take it on as is a redirection. So, but then coming for the hired position that I have now, the job I have now, it's one of the recruitment process that I'll describe as exceptional, because I learned a whole lot in the process, and I didn't know how far I can go in the process as well. It was a procedure that showed me that whatever you set your mind on to achieve, except you decide to limit yourself, nothing is going to limit you, nothing is going to stop you. I remember having the first the first interview I had with a recruiter. And I had that before then. Of course, I had my own company where I offered some services, really. And that day I traveled. I wasn't in the Netherlands when I had the first interview, and I had to get into a car, closed up the window to have my interview, my video interview, and it went quite well. I remember staying up all night, just thinking, I don't know what to expect. The questions I'll be asked, will somebody try to like use psychology on me and all those kind of things. I didn't know the expectations really, but I just be myself. This is something you do. This is something you've been doing. It's not new to you. So I stayed in the car and did the first interview, and it went well. And the recruiter told me, oh, you will hear from us again. We'll be in touch. We'll have other people we are talking to. I said, okay, but I have applied to other jobs as well, and some of them giving me a positive feedback, but let's see how it goes. And then when the second interview came, I really prepared very well. Very, very well. It's an interview that I don't know if anybody has done this before, but for me, I stood up at 7 p.m. Dutch time till 4 a.m. the next morning preparing for an interview, reading a lot of documents, a lot of details I needed to know about the company, because it was a very big company. So I don't go into the interview looking dumb or maybe going in empty. I had to prepare all night. And then when I told someone that is very close to me, she tried to check on me that night and discovered that I was still awake preparing for the interview. She said, are you preparing for an exam? I said, you won't understand. This is actually an exam for me. I have to take this serious, really. Indeed. And then the second interview came. The interview itself, of course, sometimes you'll be nervous. I was nervous. I'm going to be honest. I was nervous because I didn't know what to expect. And during the beginning, I was also sweating too, because I was nervous and sweating. You can imagine sweating in the Dutch weather in the cold. But that was my situation.
Yeah,
I had to go
nervous. You were nervous.
Yeah, I had to go bring a fan close to me so that I can get some air to dry off the sweat and everything. And when I was being asked several questions about my previous job, the skills I have, the education background, who am I, my passions, and also it's asking some technical questions as well to see how I can be able to apply real life knowledge to those technical questions and how to you bring about result in the organization because I've prepared, because I was really armed with details.
Yeah, yeah.
I came in there to perform and to let them know that, hey, I've actually gone through this procedure and these are things that I know how to do best. So the second interview passed, and then I was told again, you're not done yet. We have another one coming.
Yes, yes.
The third,
Vino, sorry to interrupt. Maybe just to be clear, for the second interview you just described, who are joining these interviews? Were they like maybe just high manager or the person you will work in the future? Or
there were a mixture of both. Everything that you just said. I was interviewed by high managers too. And I also someone that I'll be working close with in the job. And the recruiter was also there too during the interview. I had like 4 people. I had 4 people in the interview in total, and including me, 5. So it was question coming from different angle. The manager would ask, the other person would ask, the consultant in the midst would ask, the person you'll be working with would ask, just to basically understand you and your skills. You said you want to come work for us. We need to understand you, your skills, and also how you'll be able to perform, because this is how we work. So yeah, it was comprising of my manager, the person I'll be working closely with, and the recruiter, and then myself. I remember one of the technical questions I was asked, and one of the managers in the interview panel asked me, with these technicalities we have, how would you be able to communicate this? Because you say you do communication, but this is a very technical stuff that you have to break it down using communication for people to understand. How would you do that? Well, I said from a communication point of view, the first point of starting for me would be research. I will go into an in-depth research. And the research I would do is the research of what was, what is, and what will be. So it's like a research in the past to see what has been done, how it worked, the result it yielded, and then now that we are, what do we need to push into the future? So just I run a communication through a research through these 3 lines. I'll be able to see how best to communicate that technical thing to the people using communication, because that way you could be able to see what will work and what cannot work. So yeah, it really paid off.
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, there is another round of interview. Could you continue telling about
Yes.
it? Yeah.
And then the third interview came when I thought I was finished with the second one. I said, hold on, the third one is coming. I said, okay, no problem. And the third interview was scheduled. I got the link. I joined the interview, and voila, I thought we would only be 4 people in this interview. 1 extra person joined. We had 1 more person. And not just 1 more person, it was one of also the big managers as well joined the interview. I'm like, whoa. But then before again I went into the third one, I also went and prepared.
You went to the exam mode.
I went to exam mode, exactly, because preparation is key.
Yeah.
And when I came for that third one, and then they also repeated the same technical question as well. I was able to give the same response that I gave in the second interview. And when it was my turn, they asked me, do you have any question for? Oh, I said, wait, I have questions for you. And then I started bringing them one after the other, because I also did my research and I prepared. And I did research on different work they've been doing. The managers actually in the interview, the different work they've been doing, I did a research on them. The results they've been able to produce over the years for the company. I wanted to understand how they did it. And I remember also asking one of the managers a very particular question. I said, for you to consider someone as to be part of the team or as a member of your team, what do you look out for? What kind of attributes would you look out for in a person? I can't forget the response he gave. He said, the person should just be kind. Yeah, that's what he looked out for, to be kind. Because there are some certain behavioral attributes that would help you to be assimilated in any, not just in the society, but in any place you find yourself. And for him, kindness stands out because that is one of the ways you can relate with people, even on a professional grounds, but at the same time, making sure that everybody lives happy. So kindness was very key for him, and he told me kindness. I said, okay, thank you for letting me know. At least I know that if I get the job, of which eventually I did, that I will have a kind manager, and I know I also will be kind to my colleagues. I'm a kind person, really.
So indeed, it was long journey with interviews. When I also consult with some Korean candidates when it comes to interview, I think maybe it's also culturally embedded that the Koreans are a bit more shy. Because we are maybe kind of grown that way, and also maybe English is also not our first language, that makes it difficult. So I mean, for people struggling to do like a good interview, what kind of advice would you give?
Well, to begin with, I'm also shy. I'm also.
I doubt that, but if you say
A
so.
lot of people don't believe me when I say that.
He's not shy.
I'm shy.
He's not shy. No, he's never shy.
He doesn't believe me either. I'm shy.
Okay.
I'm also a very shy person,
Okay.
really. And, or even though the English language, it's not my mother tongue, but I'm like a near native speaker. Even though I speak that good English, I was still shy for my interview, and I was nervous. But I think one of the key things to note down if you're going for an interview, prepare. It is very key. When you prepare, do your background study, do your research, and not just on the role, the people that will be coming in for the interview, anticipate different questions. Anticipate questions like maybe, what do you have for breakfast? And you tell them, and why do you have it for breakfast? It's also possible that if, for instance, the role you're applying for is a role that has to do with catering or a chef, those are kind of questions to see the psychology behind your preparation for food, or the psychology behind your preparation for eating certain kind of food. So you have to anticipate anything, anticipate different questions, but preparation is key. And if the job goes your way, then it's for you. If it doesn't go your way, then it's obviously you're being redirected to another job that you'll be a perfect fit in for. And not just be a perfect fit in, but also a job that you'll be happy doing and you will enjoy doing it. Yeah.
And maybe I want to ask an additional question on how you did the preparation, because usually as a recruiter, I share names who will be joining the interview.
Yes.
And I believe maybe you had a certain strategy that how to prepare the interview well. So when it comes to like, when you know that what kind of person will participate, how did you prepare? What's your key? Like how?
So first, the recruiter's information to you when it comes to preparing for interview is very handy. It will help to go a long way for your preparation. But it doesn't just stop at the information you get from the recruiter. You should also dig. And by digging, I mean go online, search on the internet. Who is this person? What kind of thing does this person do for this job? How are they able to do their job? So that way you can also get a picture for yourself of your potential, or the potential organization you'll be getting into, or the organization you'll be working for in the future. And you can prepare yourself better. So it's go online on the internet, you search out who does this, who does what, when and how they do whatever they do for the company. Of course, those are coming from the information the recruiter shared with you. Maybe, for instance, people that will be coming for your interview. And at the same time, you also do your research on the job. What are the overall expectations from this particular job? What should I be doing? From the job description, you can see it. But at the same time, you can also do other research to find out which is online. When I say research or make reference to research, I mean just going online to search for information and dwelling on it, reflecting on it, and see how it applies in real term to you and to also the job, to the work you'll be proposing you will doing for them. So that's basically the preparation. First, the information you get from the recruiter, and then secondly, the information you also find for yourself. When you merge both together, I think you're going in there and you'll ace the interview.
Yeah, indeed. And I think what is also important to share from a recruiter side is that recruiter, when like interview with the hiring manager starts, you can see the recruiter as your partner. So don't be shy to ask questions. So ask questions. If the recruiter didn't share who will be joining the interview, just ask them. And recruiter will usually tell, this is gonna be the person holding this position. And if you're not sure about how to prepare or what to prepare, just have a phone call with recruiter and ask to help the interview. I mean, usually they will also help you to do so.
And if it's also possible, disturb the recruiter with emails to get this information, really. Because I really did send my recruiter a lot of emails asking questions and also giving him feedback or something like that. And even some calls sometimes to get more details about some certain things. And that way I'm prepared. So see your recruiter, see the recruiter as a partner from the moment you get invited from the first interview, and it appears that they are interested in you. Just let the recruiter be your partner, and then yeah, I think things will fall into place.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Much agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In the end, I think you got hired.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, Jim.
Okay. And now I'm also curious what you're doing. So you started working, and I think November last year you told me. So can you tell what kind of job do you do?
I just do communication. I just talk.
Okay. Okay. Interview finished, guys. Next time. You haven't prepared for this one, so now you're shy.
I'm shy.
Okay, but back to business. So what do you do?
So at first I do talking, and secondly, I do other things that goes beyond talking. I engage people. I also study expectations. It's because my main job now is bringing the workforce or bringing employees closer to the employer. So for me to do that, I need to understand who are the employees to begin with, and what does what does the employer want to say to the employees, so that way I can be able to know how best. When I know what the employer wants to communicate, I can know the best channel and the best medium or strategy to communicate that information to the workforce or to the employees. So I do that. I engage the workforce for the employer. I conduct interviews. I also, like I mentioned, do video editing. When it's also necessary, I also video myself when assigned for the role. I also do voice recording, and sometimes it could be my voice also in the video. Hopefully, in the near future, I'll probably take on another skill in software development or programming, because you need to, as technology is advancing, you need to evolve and adapt. Yeah.
So as a communication officer, I think you have kind of external where you talk about our organization doing this, but in your case, I think it's called internal.
It's internal communication.
Okay.
I do internal communication.
Okay,
Bringing the workforce closer to the employer.
Indeed. Okay, that's good. Okay, and yeah, you do have like previous work experience before coming to the Netherlands, doing the study, getting this job. So, do you think like your experience actually helped to do your job maybe a bit faster, a bit better now? What do you think?
Yes,
Okay.
I would say yes. Recently, I finished up a program synopsis. It's been a long time I actually did that program synopsis, but because I still have the residual memory of the work I was doing before, and I know I've helped like previous former colleagues back home to draft program synopsis. And when I was doing it now, this memory was just coming back, and this is something that if I haven't had that experience before, I wouldn't have been able to draft it. I wouldn't have been able to know what that I needed. And because also my area of expertise falls in the middle of content development or content creation, I can be able to sit down and look at what the employer wants to say and develop content around it to pass the message in a very engaging way to the workforce, which is internal communication. So the previous experiences and background that I have had has really helped me. And when it also comes in terms of voiceover and stuff like that I do, these were things I do before. In my previous workplace, I did a couple of voiceovers, and also if there are maybe adverts or jingles that will be aired on radio, I also voice them then. My program at that point in the media house has my voice on it, the flagship program. So these are things that really helped, or that is also helping now, like the video I did with the voice coming in on it and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say that the skills, the background and the trainings that I've had has really helped me at this point, and is also helping me, continue to help me to get adjusted and to do my job very well and in a more engaging way.
So they were actually the questions. So Vino, thank you, really thank you for your time. I think it will be also very helpful for the prospects, job seekers who want to get a job in the Netherlands. So really thank you for that. Last comments, things pop up you still want to share to the viewers?
When you get those negative response on your application, those are redirections, not rejections. And your dreams are valid. And also, while you are waiting for the dream job to come, what do you have in your hands? When you have something in your hands, by what I mean, it could be skills, it could be your talents, put them to use. And technology and the internet has given us a lot of platforms to do that, to put those things into use. So while you are waiting for the dream job to come, make sure that you are busy, because that's one of the ways you keep pushing. That's one of the ways you will even gather more skills. That's one of the ways you will grow without knowing that you are growing. That's one of the ways you tell yourself that I can still make a difference. I was studying, but at the same time studying, I was doing my voiceover job on the side. Doing voice. I didn't have a professional studio back then in my student housing. I would go under my blanket with the tiny microphone I have to record. And sometimes if it's a professional job that requires more professionalism, I have networks that have home studios. I can just run to their home studios and record, or go pay for a time at the studio and record with the studio. I wasn't less busy. I wasn't idle. What is in your hands while you wait for the appointed time? So that's what I'm going to say. As you make plans to study, as you make plans to travel abroad, be strategic. Make sure that in those plans you at least know and you are clear about them, and put what you have in your hands to good use while you wait.
Once again, thank you for making your time available. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment or send me an email, and I can answer it, or I can also forward it to Vino. Maybe you can also help answering some of the
Definitely.
questions.
Maybe if the questions come in, we can do a part 2.
Okay, sure. So you heard it. So send as many questions as possible, and we will do a Q&A session as part 2.
Definitely.
Okay. See you guys. Bye bye.